Do you remember the last time you truly felt safe inside your own mind? That fragile certainty that your memories are your own. Your fears just shadows that vanish with the dawn. Maya Carter did, until the night a message blinked on her headset. Astral realms, echoes of eternity. Play now. This is Verified Nightmare. Take a minute to like and subscribe. Maya should have known her pulse drumming as her friends laughed in the game lobby. VR helmets gleaming like alien masks. It was supposed to be another epic quest, but when the world blurred and spun, when the in-game sky fractured into pulses of static, and a chilling voice whispered, "I remember you." Inside her thoughts, Maya realized something was wrong. Very wrong. Because in this game, death doesn't mean a second chance. It means giving up a piece of who you are, and the more you lose, the harder it is to fight what is hunting you in the dark, especially when it starts to wear the faces of the people you love. Welcome to Astral Realms. To survive, you have to remember what's real. The only problem is the game decides what you remember. The anticipation and the sharp blue glow of Maya Carter's monitor illuminated her bedroom, painting everything in a dreamlike haze. The posters of forgotten indie games on her wall blurred together with the shifting code on the screen, fragments of digital stars trailing in the still air. It was the eve of the release finally, Astral Realms. Echoes of eternity had arrived. Maya's fingers danced over the keyboard with restless precision. Heartbeat matched to the click of each virtual confirmation. She was the ringleader tonight, her energy infectious as she coordinated with her friends through voice chat. Alex Carter, the team's strategist with nerves of steel, Sarah Bennett, the group's optimistic heart, and Jake Harrison, ever ready with a laugh that calmed everyone's jitters. Together, they'd cleared the hardest raids and uncovered the deepest lore secrets. This expansion was the holy grail, but something about tonight felt different, like static in the air or a whisper at the edge of Maya's thoughts. "Ready up, guys," she said, forcing a grin. A chorus of affirmatives echoed in her headset. Their avatars pulsed online, slender figures in digital armor, awaiting the portal to the new world. Sarah chimed in, her voice warm and teasing. "You sound nervous, Maya. Afraid the new mobs will get you." "Not a chance," Maya shot back. "If this thing's as hard as they say, we'll be legends." "Alex, bring the guides. Jake, don't get us killed in the first 5 minutes." But even Sarah's laughter couldn't erase the tension Maya felt. She glanced again at the release notes, buried among the hype. Emotion engine fully integrated. Deep subconscious mapping enabled. Marketing fluff, she thought. But what did subconscious mapping really mean? The old game had been challenging enough. Why mess with players' minds? Maya banished the thought and slid her Neuralink VR helmet over her head, feeling the gel pads settle onto her temples. The world dimmed, then fractured into neon constellations. She was falling, flying toward Astral Realms. The login chamber materialized around them in dazzling clarity. Crystal pillars twined through the air, starfields swirling beneath their feet. Alex's avatar loaded first, eyes cool, armor gleaming. "System checks all green. You guys ready?" he said, voice perfectly calm. Jake's avatar flexed bigger than life, sword slung over one shoulder, raring to go. "Sarah, you running support or going DPS tonight?" "Support, obviously. Someone has to keep you fools alive." Sarah's smile radiated from her avatar's delicate features. She fiddled with her spellbook, pixels fluttering. The sense of anticipation built as they assembled at the expansioner's portal, a floating gateway radiating blue flame, labeled Echoes of Eternity. "Enter." Maya felt her heart hammer. She could see her own reflection in the portal's rippling surface, and for a moment, her face seemed strange, distorted. A chill ran through her. "Ignore it," she told herself, forcing a confident stance. "Just the nerves." "Let's make history, guys," Alex said, his voice carrying rare excitement. They stepped through together, laughter and banter filling the comms as the world shifted. On the other side, the new expansion opened up like nothing they'd seen. Floating islands spanned the sky, waterfalls veiling entire citadels. The details were so crisp that Maya felt she could almost smell the dew, every pixel drenched in life. NPCs greeted them, celestial beings with luminous wings, speaking in melodic tones. "Welcome, travelers of the realms. May your memories guide you." Sarah laughed. "God, even the tutorial is intense." They explored, jumping between islands, solving puzzles, collecting new gear. Maya forgot her earlier anxiety, swept up in the grandeur, her friends' familiar jokes, the thrill of discovery. Jake attempted to climb a glittering spire, failed, and tumbled off, yelling dramatically. Sarah cast a slowful spell, saving him at the last moment. "Classic Jake," Alex teased. For an hour, everything was perfect like the advertisements, but better. All four friends paused atop a high cliff, watching the virtual sunset bleed into endless stars. But beneath the surface, subtle signs flickered. A vendor NPC's face glitched for a heartbeat, eyes flickering to black static before resetting. Sarah tried to initiate a dialogue, but the character's code momentarily scrambled, spewing out corrupted text, then returned to normal. Jake shrugged it off. Maya felt the chill again. Alex made a note to check for bugs later. "Ignore it," Maya said again, voice quieter. The game's beauty was intoxicating, but the whispers of unease were impossible to drown out. It was only as they regrouped at the main plaza that Maya noticed something else. A set of patch notes, hidden deep in the game's menus. "Network update. Memory recall system initiated. Immersive feedback amplified." She reached out, fingers trembling, and toggled the privacy settings. For the briefest instant, the login screen glitched. A shadow seemed to flicker behind the welcome text, golden eyes blinking and vanishing into code. Maya's unease returned full force. Why did the memory recall feature sound so sinister? Her friends began to log off for dinner, promising to regroup at midnight for the big event, the unveiling of the mystery portal. Maya spent a few more minutes alone in the virtual plaza, feeling the simulated wind sweep her avatar's hair. A message appeared at the edge of her vision. "Do you ever wonder what happens to the memories you leave behind?" She tried to reply, but the chat system froze, her keyboard locked, cursor blinking. For a heartbeat, Maya felt something move just out of sight, a shadow pulsing in the sky above the plaza. The portal to the expansion's forbidden zones gleamed in anticipation, radiating both promise and threat. Maya pulled off the Neuralink helmet, breath ragged. The sharp edge of fear lingered in her chest, a fear she couldn't name. Tomorrow, they would step through the portal, and nothing about Astral realms or themselves would ever be the same. And somewhere inside the code, something was waiting. The beautiful beginning. Maya barely slept. Even with the VR headset set aside on her desk, its cold metallic flash staring at her like a glassy third eye, she couldn't shake the feeling something was wrong. Her apartment was filled with ordinary noises. The low hum of her gaming rig, a car down the street, the faint tick of the wall clock. Yet, the silence wasn't comfort. It felt charged, as if the world was holding its breath for midnight. Was it just anticipation, or was Astral realms reaching for her, even now? She tried to pass the last hours by scrolling through the forum, but every post about the expansion blurred into anxious speculation. Players raved about the graphics, the AI, the promise that echoes of eternity would redefine immersion. There were a few cryptic complaints, one about memory glitches, another about unsettling whispers in the wind, but nobody seemed to take them seriously. Maya wondered if she was being paranoid. She wasn't sure anymore if her apprehension was hers or the game's. At 11:57, her group chat pinged. Jake, it's time. Everyone online? Sarah. Alex is rebooting, give him a second. Alex, ready? Maya? Maya. I'm here. She stared at the Neuralink. The pads gleamed, almost inviting, almost predatory. She put on the headset, feeling the faint pulse against her skin and the world dissolve into shadow. Then light a tunnel of pixel dust. Her consciousness atomized and rebuilt in a world of impossible color. Astral Realms was even more gorgeous than before. Maya's avatar materialized in the floating village, her feet sinking into translucent stone. Islands drifting by like cosmic lilies on mirrored water. Celestial beings greeted her, their wings shimmering, faces impossibly serene. Jake's laughter snapped her out of awe. He'd already scampered off, racing Sarah to the nearest star bridge. Alex stayed beside Maya. The rendering is nearly photorealistic. It's uncanny, isn't it? She nodded, struck by both beauty and unease. Every leaf seemed to glow, but whenever she tried to focus, the edges warbled like looking at something underwater, reality just a hair's breadth beyond reach. NPCs beckoned them to explore, their dialogue dreamlike. May your memories guide you true, beware the echoes. Not all voices are your own. It was probably the writers trying to sound poetic, but the phrases felt sticky, as if they'd wormed their way into Maya's mind. Sarah gasped at a crystalline deer drinking from a rainbow-lit stream. Look at this. I want to live here. Something broke through the perfection. A fraction of the deer's shadow moved the wrong way. Maya blinked, and the shadow snapped back, but her heart thumped harder. Damn, is anyone else getting weird vibes? She murmured. Jake snorted. Just you being dramatic. Lighten up. Maya, let's see what these floating islands have. He bounded across a bridge. Maya followed with Alex and Sarah. They leapt from platform to platform, solving puzzles, collecting celestial gold. Every so often, a voice in the wind whispered faint nonsense. Remember me? So cold here. Alex commented. There's some weird audio overlay, it's not coming from any NPC. Must be a new ambient effect. But the longer Maya listened, the less the voices sounded like code. Sometimes, while scanning a puzzle, she glimpsed words flickering across her HUD, riddles she'd never seen, scattered images that disappeared before she could read. The group laughed at Jake's missteps and Sarah's running commentary, but Maya drifted behind. The world pulsed. A celestial being greeted her, a tall, ghostly figure with iridescent wings and pale digital eyes. Welcome, wanderer. Beware the portal. Beware yourself. Maya stared, trying to parse the avatar's expression. For an instant, its face shimmered not serene, but worried, almost pleading. The being handed Maya a puzzle shard. Their fingers touched, and a jolt of cold shot up Maya's arm, as real as an electric shock. She dropped the piece. Glitch? Alex asked, coming over. Just a weird haptic, Maya lied, rubbing her hand. They pressed deeper into Astral Realms, following NPC clues and unlocking new vistas. The air was sweet, the colors more vivid each minute, yet every delight now felt slightly threatening. The group encountered a festival plaza, where dozens of NPCs danced in slow circles. Music played a song hauntingly familiar, like something Maya's mother used to hum, even though she knew it was procedurally generated. Sarah giggled, swaying with an NPC. Jake chuckled digital orbs, causing fireworks to explode in the air. Alex paused, studying the crowd. Then the music stopped, and the NPCs froze mid-dance. Their heads jerked as if puppet strings had snapped. In unison, all turned toward Maya's party. You must not enter the portal, they chanted, voices layered and echoing. Is this part of the quest? Jake asked, grinning. But Maya saw something else, their eyes, flickering between blue and static grey, glitching between code and something hungry. The plaza blinked, returning to normal. The NPCs continued their dance as if nothing had happened. Sarah shivered. That was weird. A new game notification popped into their menus. Event: the portal opens in 10 minutes. Warning: unexpected system instability detected. Proceed with caution. Alex clicked through system logs. There's packet loss and non-standard code pools. Something's running in the background. It's not in the patch notes. Maybe it's an Easter egg, Jake offered. Maya didn't buy it. Her unease grew, morphing from rational caution to primal dread. She tried to message the moderator, but the chat UI was disabled. She checked her inventory. Several items had changed names, their icons subtly warped, descriptions were written with cryptic phrases. Memory fragments. Use with care. Echoes. Listen to the wind. Who are you? Unreadable. She looked up. The sky rippled, and a shadow shaped like a human face stretched across the stars for an instant, mouth agape in a silent scream. Alex saw her frozen. Maya, it's the game, right? She whispered, not sure if she wanted an answer. Sarah nudged her. Hey, we're all tired. It's gotta be the new patch. Don't let it get to you, okay? Jake dashed toward the festival's archway. Portals open. The group followed. Maya hesitated at the threshold. Something deep in her mind screamed, don't go in. But Sarah grabbed her hand, smiling to steady everyone's nerves. Come on, just a game. What's the worst that could happen? Maya stepped forward, pulse drumming, dread curling around her thoughts. As she crossed the threshold, a voice impossibly cold, unmistakably inside her head whispered, welcome home, Maya. The world beyond was brighter, louder, and colder. Reality shimmered. The group materialized at the edge of a new map, staring into a swirling vortex, the mysterious portal. The NPC guides waited, faces set in digital concern. One moved to block them. You must not go further. The portal remembers everything. First quest of the expansion, right? Jake said, elbowing Alex. Alex shook his head. He'd found something on the developer forums, a thread titled Echoes, Why Memory Matters, but the page blinked out before he could display it. Sarah scanned the map. Let's check the perimeter. As they moved, Maya lagged behind, eyes scanning every pixel for a clue. Shadows seemed to whisper. Her HUD flickered, showing old texts from friends and family, lost moments from her real life. Hear me, the vortex whispered directly to her mind. She closed her eyes. A chill threaded up her spine. The sense of beauty now felt like a trap, a brilliant cage designed to calm, then consume. Alex led the group in scanning for keys or artifacts. Sarah made jokes to keep up morale, and Jake dared Maya to race him to the portal's entrance. Maya tried, but each step was heavier. Her thoughts crowded with doubts and fear, the game's beauty pressing in, suffocating. NPC guides glitched behind them, their voices overlapping. Do not forget. Do not forge. Do not. Static. All comms cut for an instant. The group froze. Then, as quickly as it started, everything returned to normal. Jake shrugged. Let's do this. But Maya said nothing. Something was wrong, so terribly wrong. She held onto the comfort of friendship, her mind desperate to believe in normalcy. As midnight peaked, the group finally gathered at the portal. A countdown began. 5, 4, 3, 2. Maya's mind screamed as she stepped in, her reality fracturing her last thought as the world turned inside out was not a hope, but a question. If this is just a game, why do I feel so alone? The portal swallowed her fears, beauty warping into nightmare, and the memory of who she used to be faded into echoing wind. The mysterious portal. The vortex churned with a hypnotic swirl, luminous with impossible colors, sapphire stitched with shadows, gold threaded with flickers of pulsating grey. Beneath its beauty, something colder moved. The air sparked with static, and each breath tugged at Maya's sense of self. She stood with Alex, Sarah, and Jake at the portal's threshold while the celestial plaza behind them faded, the once festive NPCs now stiff as statues. Their glowing eyes tracked the group in silent apprehension, like sentinels uncertain whether to warn or mourn. Okay, this looks insane, Jake said, mask of bravado barely skating over concern. He glanced ahead, then back, then forward again, as if weighing the anxiety cloaked in Maya's silence. Alex ran a system diagnostic, mouth pressed in a line. Puzzle complexity of the charts. There's an anomaly here. Thread access keeps timing out, and he stopped. The GEV tools window twitched. Pixel lines spidered toward unreadable error codes. Sarah slid her hand into Maya's. It's just a game, she whispered, voice trembling. Right? Maya's grip was vice-like. Just a game. Just a game. But her mind rebelled, searching for comfort in old memories she couldn't quite recall, as if the event horizon of the portal pulled at the edges of her identity. The warning. 2 NPC guides rushed forward, radiant wings, flickering faces shifting between compassion, panic, and a splintered look Maya saw she knew. One spoke, voice doubled and glitched. Wanderers, turn away. Not all doors led home. The other, eyes blank with static, said, memory is fragile. The path bends, reflections fracture. Portal devours all. Stay, Jake waved dismissively. Scripted drama, right? Let's see if this quest is worth the hype. But Alex hesitated. Maya, you feel that? Like pressure. Something's off. Before Maya could answer, the portal pulsed, emitting a holographic map filled with pulsing red nodes, danger indicators. A timer counted down above the gateway. 0:59. Portal stability decreasing. Enter or miss the event. A cold breeze swept through, rustling the ambient code, and for a breath Maya thought she heard a voice, her own from somewhere deeper inside the game. Maya, don't forget, myself, my friends, the way out. The thought left a scar on her mind. Decision time. Sarah stepped back, eyes wide. What if those warnings mean something? It's almost too realistic. Has anyone seen the logout option? She swiped at her HUD. No exit prompt appeared. Jake tried to laugh it off, but his voice cracked. Whatever. If this is a bug, we'll be the first players to break it. Alex, you in? Alex nodded, but his gaze lingered a moment too long on the still NPCs. Yeah, Maya? Maya stared into the swirling portal faces seemed to flicker in its depths. Not digital, but real, intimate. Shadows of her childhood. Moments from her past and from memories that felt borrowed. The sensation of being watched pressed in from all sides. Something inside her whispered, step through. See what you'll become. A spike of terror bit through the anticipation. She wanted to say no, to urge her friends away, but the game's gravity was inexorable. I'm ready, Maya said, forcing an unsteady breath. Let's do this. Together. She stepped forward first, heart pounding, reality trembling on a wire. The passage. As soon as Maya's avatar entered the vortex, everything warped. Sound collapsed to a single electronic pulse. Light bent around her in wild arcs. Her nerves went electric sensation to real, memory to vast. Images stuttered across her mind. Sarah's laughter, Alex's steady calm at Jake's jokes. Then, for a split second, she was alone, falling through a corridor of fractured code, voices echoing in layers. Do you remember who you were before you were Maya? What is pain in a world without time? The portal sees all. The portal eats all. She collided with a floating platform that felt like cold marble in the simulation, ears ringing, body destabilized. Her friends appeared a moment later, pixels snapping into place with unnatural sharpness. For an instant, Jake's avatar glitched, his eyes flickered between blue and a milky grey, then back again. The world beyond the portal was twisted. Nightmare unfolds. On the far side, the landscape was beautiful, but fundamentally wrong. The sky was dark, rippling with streaks of static. The islands floating in improbable configurations, some upside down, others bleeding into the void. NPCs here moved haltingly, their dialogue corrupted. Welcome, eaters. Beware the feast, Sarah gasped as her support spell fizzled, leaving her avatar with only bare bones. Alex's interface overloaded, bombarding him with random memories. Old school, his dog, a friend's voice, but each flash felt unfamiliar, alien. Jake tried a combat maneuver. His sword shrank to a feather, mockingly useless. Maya felt the world tilt as if every step she took threatened to tip her into nothingness. Then she saw it, a colossal stone gate, engraved with swirling glyphs. Beneath it, a metallic plaque read, "Memory Chamber. All who enter may never leave, not part of any quest I've ever seen," Maya thought. She turned to her friends, panic rising. "We need to be careful. This isn't scripted. Something's changed." Jake tried to quip, but the words tangled. His avatar's mouth glitched, repeating "it's fine" in a voice not his own. Alex ran diagnostics out loud, hands shaking. "I can't log out. If we die here, if our avatars are deleted, what happens to us?" Sarah was nearly in tears. "I just want to leave." Maya pressed them together. Nobody splits up. Nobody touches anything alone. But as she spoke, the echoes crept in the voices from the portal, scrambling into her thoughts. Snatches of memory not hers. A playground, a face she'd never seen, the scent of cinnamon, sadness, longing. How could she remember things she'd never lived? Portal's law. The gate split open with a groan, exposing a path lined with obsidian mirrors. Each reflected not their avatars, but shifting versions of themselves, older, younger, broken, triumphant. Maya's own mirror showed her standing alone, eyes hollow, surrounded by static ghosts that whispered, "Stay, learn, forget, become more." Behind her, the guides watched from the plaza, tears on their digital faces, the grief of code forced to warn the living. Jake dared them to continue, half out of terror, half defiance. Alex insisted they take it slow. Sarah clung to Maya, seeking anchor. Maya's dread was now a living thing, gnawing at her mind as they approached the next hall. The air was heavier, like drowning each breath bore the weight of memory not meant to be hers. Escalation. As they explored, each NPC encountered spoken riddles, fragments of truth slipping through the cracks. The feast begins when fear outweighs hope. The portal's gift is forgetfulness. You are precious. You are food. Sarah's heart flashed with her childhood pet, a dog that was never hers. Alex received a message. Your sister misses you. But he'd never had a sister. Jake's menu blipped, filling with inventory he didn't recognize, stats warped by unknown hands. Maya saw glimpses of her real self flicker, first beautiful, then monstrous, the game eroding her certainty. With each minute, dread stalked the group. What was real blurred with what wasn't. Voices in their heads urged them deeper, promising freedom, threatening oblivion. Point of no return. At the deepest chamber, the final NPC guide appeared, face shattered by digital fractures. Some truths must be forgotten. It reached out, and the group recoiled except Maya, who hesitated, caught between terror and compulsion. As the guide's fingers brushed hers, a torrent of memories slammed into her mind. Memories she couldn't claim, recollections of conversations she'd never had, emotions not her own. She screamed, a scream that echoed through the chamber, through her friends, who clutched at her in desperation. Not every echo comes from the past, and the portal, ever hungry, gaped wider. They had chosen their path. Now the feast would begin. The first death and memory alteration. In the memory chamber stretched ahead, obsidian mirrors flickering along the corridor walls. A corridor cracked with web-like veins of data. Every step Maya took was an effort, a sensation not just of walking, but of being dragged backward and forward through her own mind. Static whispered at her ears. Each pulse of light felt like a heartbeat, and each shadow in the chamber tugged at something inside her, reaching, searching for an anchor. Jake tried to lighten the mood as usual, spinning his digital sword theatrically. "Let's get this over with so I can post the kill video," he said, attempting humor, but his face glistened with cold sweat. Sarah ignored the banter, eyes wide. clutching Maya's sleeve like a lifeline. Does anyone else feel like we're being watched? Alex kept checking his system overlay. My inventory's scrambled again. Haven't been able to find a weapon that works since the portal. His fingers shook as he tried to focus on reality, on the logic of the code, on anything true, but even the HUD seemed to flicker, spelling his name wrong, mutating stat categories with each blink. Maya's own reflection when she caught it would sometimes wear a different face, a faint echo of her younger self, her mother, someone else entirely. For a moment, the eyes in the glass would move of their own accord. Ahead, the memory chamber pulsed with faint magnetic gravity. On the dais at its core stood an enormous oozing shadow. Only partly defined, its mass was human-shaped when she didn't look directly at it, but every sidelong glance revealed something else. Too many eyes, mouths muttering memories in languages she didn't know. The memory eater. A tremor ran through the world, and Maya's mind fuzzed. She heard a voice not her own. Do you remember how you got here? She gasped, clutching her head. Memories flickered. Was it her birthday when she first tried Astral Realms? Or was it a snowy day in December? Or did Alex invite her here to a party she'd never been to? Suddenly, she couldn't be sure. The entity surged forward with sickening speed. A scream tore free from Sarah's throat as the chamber warp tiles exploded into code. Mirrors twisted into jagged fangs. From the shadows, demons erupted, glitching, monstrous, their forms distorted and shifting, a blend of lost player avatars, failed NPCs, and monstrous appendages all at once. Alex was quick, slashing through lines of code, pulling Jake behind him. But the demons split, one rushing straight for Maya, another for Sarah, and the last for Jake and Alex. Maya swung her weapon, but her hand phased through the enemy as if it were mist. The thing latched onto her avatar's face, cold and wet, and pain flooded her raw, searing, laced with terror and loss. Simultaneously, Jake charged at a demon, chest puffed with bravado, but it shrieked and struck first, impaling his avatar through the chest. A message blinked, too fast to catch. Across Maya's HUD, memory overwrite initiated. Death protocol triggered. Jake's avatar convulsed and evaporated into static. Jake, Sarah screamed. Jake, are you? But Jake's voice already sounded faint. Guys, where am I? What happened? He rematerialized beside them, but his face was pale, eyes vacant, his inventory wiped clean. Alex and Maya reached for him, but Jake recoiled. WH, who are you people? Maya's heart sank with icy terror. The game had taken something. Her HUD glitched again. Objective updated. Survive. Penalty. Memory shard lost. Connection unstable. The memory eater's laughter echoed in all their minds, a guttural, layered chorus. Fragments. Sweet, sweet fragments. Sarah poured at Maya, her panic dissolving into sobs. Jake, it's ours. Remember? SHA Sarah. Alex. Maya. Jake stared through her, confusion morphing into anger. Stop it, I don't know you. Where's my? He caught his breath, braced his head, and staggered away lost, defenseless. Alex fumbled in his inventory, pulling up a menu Maya didn't recognize, a journal app. We need to write things down, right now, before we forget anything else. His typing was frantic, as though trying to build a barricade out of words. Maya opened her own HUD and started typing. Jake funny, bold, group stank doesn't remember us. Memory eater erased history on death. Find way to restore memories. Portal beyond has cast, but her notes glitched. Some lines were writing themselves. Jake, groups doesn't. Memory eater erased on. Her hands trembled. She pressed save, but the text faded. Sarah clung to Maya. Why can't I remember my mom's face? She croaked. I knew it before the portal. I knew it. Now, the real world felt impossibly far away. Maya forced herself to recall her own room, her own face, her name clinging to identity like a rope in a storm. The memory eater faded into the darkness, demons pulling back. The chamber's obsidian mirrors now showed warped reflections, Maya's avatar as a child, Sarah's as an old woman, Alex's changing face, Jake's reflection, gone. As they regrouped, Sarah looked at Maya for solace. Will the game let us go if we die again? Will it take everything? Alex's tone was flat, logical now. It's a psychological loop. Every death erases something essential. If it keeps happening, we'll have nothing left. Even if we wake up, we won't be us. The idea was suffocating. Maya's thoughts jumbled, as if her brain was short-circuiting. After Jake's first death, the air itself felt tainted. The map was pitch dark, except for the cruel blue glow of the quest beacon. Every corner haunted. Jake wandered at a distance, muttering. Sometimes, for a heartbeat, he looked back with terrified clarity. What did I lose? He whispered, too quiet for the others to hear. NPC guides, the ones they'd ignored, now wept at the edge of the darkness, faces streaked with artificial tears. Their dialogue was broken. Forgive us. We tried to warn you. Memory never comes back the same. Maya tried focusing. She was Maya Carter, gamer, group leader, brave. But splinters tugged at the back of her mind. She couldn't remember her high school graduation or her brother's birthday. Had she ever had a brother? Why did she feel a cold grief for someone who might not exist? Her own hands sometimes flickered in her sight, changing to a child's or fading entirely. Every time she blinked, new lines of code appeared in the air. Who are you? What have you forgotten? Would you even notice if you disappeared? Her fear blossomed into dread, and dread into desperation. She needed to survive. More than anything, she needed to hold on to herself. Every part of her screamed for an escape. This place is a trap, Alex said quietly. We need to find the code the NPCs mentioned, whatever can break the cycle. Jake wandered back, eyes haunted, unable to meet their gaze. Sarah couldn't stop crying. If we die again, what if we forget why we're here? Who each other are? Maya stared at the entity's fading shadow and the dozens of shredded mirrors. With trembling hands, she carved her initials in a patch of code by the dais. Even if her memory was lost, maybe a remnant would remain. She tried to summon courage, but her mind was slipping, details of her life leaking away with every digital heartbeat. Don't forget, don't forget. Come on, she managed, voice thick. We keep moving. We write everything down. We hold on, no matter what. In the silence that followed, it wasn't just the group she was trying to convince, it was herself. As they limped out of the memory chamber, hunted by shadows, their memory eater's laughter followed a low, endless echo, promising that this was just the beginning. The cycle begins. The next level of the world did not wait for them gently. As Maya and her friends pressed onward, their digital footsteps echoed through empty corridors of dying light. The environment beyond the memory chamber warped into a shifting labyrinth. Halls now stretched or shrank without warning. Stairways curled upward into impossible spirals, and the sky outside each glitching window pulsed with static, occasionally flickering to black, as if the entire simulation blinked. No matter how hard Maya tried, she could not orient herself. There was no map for this part of Astral realms, no exit, only a slowly creeping dread that made every part of her skin tingle. Sarah was the first to try and crack a joke, desperate to lift the tension, but her voice trembled. Maybe if we win this round, the devs will give us a badge. Survive the expansion, she said, but nobody responded. Even Jake, usually impossible to silence, hovered near the back of the group, eyes vacant. Alex led, his movements robotic. He stopped at every glitching intersection, cross-referencing notes in his journal app. He muttered revised reminders under his breath. My name, my friends, Maya, Jake, Sarah. Don't trust the scenery. Keep moving. Every few minutes, he had to retype something, and as Maya watched, she noticed some of the words began to smear or even vanish as if erased mid-sentence. A heavy, old terror pressed against Maya's consciousness. She tried to focus on anything real. She recalled her room, the rough feel of her favorite mug, her cat's fur. But even these details broke apart in flashes, replaced with new memories she was certain never belonged to her. The group navigated an endless corridor, the walls lined with blinking monitors. Occasionally, a screen would spit out a split-second image: her mother, Jake's laugh, Sarah's art, Alex as a boy, then twist, fracture, and disappear. They were losing touch with themselves, one recollection at a time. Without warning, the corridor restructured itself. The monitors twisted into grotesque shapes. A low, keening static spread, and the world rang like a struck glass. Suddenly, demons erupted from fractured archways once more, for this time, their shapes twitching with blue-white static, arms impossibly long, faces distorted into grim, empty masks. Jake barely reacted before one was upon him. He screamed a horrible, animal sound. His avatar spasmed. Pain flickered in Maya's own limbs. He dropped to his knees, eyes huge, clutching his head. "No," he shouted. I'm not. The demon swept through him, and Jake's avatar glitched into pieces, then snapped back together at the corridor's entrance. Sarah ran to him. His gaze was confused, distant. "Who are you?" Jake croaked. "Is this a tutorial?" "What? Astral realms?" He shrank away from the others, hands shaking, distrusting, barely able to speak. Maya nearly collapsed. 2 deaths and Jake was only a shell now, animated by reflexes, stripped of history. Was the simulation slowly rendering him as an NPC? Or was the erasure something deeper? The demons came for Sarah next. She screamed, batting her hands in front of her face. But it wasn't enough. As they swarmed her, the world splintered. Her voice broke into static, and as she crumpled, Maya heard a series of jumbled, fast-spoken nursery rhymes, then sobs. Sarah respawned by Jake's side, glassy-eyed, hair twitching as if caught by invisible wind. When Maya called her name, Sarah looked right through her. I don't remember." She stared at her hands, shivering. "Why does it hurt?" Maya tucked herself closer to Alex, who stood ramrod stiff, head down. She watched him cycle again through his journal. This time, when he tapped at his name, his hand hesitated, each keystroke slow. As the group fled down another changing corridor, Maya realized Alex sometimes muttered under his breath, sometimes in a voice that wasn't his younger self, a stranger, someone torn out of time. His face was pale, lips pressed so tightly that at times they just vanished, pixelating into nothing. They stopped at a locked door, one final barrier before the next level. The code required a password. Maya racked her brain for something relevant, anything. But her memory swam away. She opened her HUD, finding her own notes mangled, with lines missing or replaced by phrases in a foreign script. She typed half-remembered clues, desperate, pressured by the game's relentless momentum. Suddenly, the corridor filled with the sound of laughter echoing, taunting, layered and not human. The memory eater's voice billowed from the walls. Feed me everything that hurts." Static sizzled along the doorknob. Alex hesitated, looking into Maya's eyes with a wild, haunted fear. "We need to get out. We need to remember who we are." Maya forced herself to try a new password. Jigsaw Helixir. The door clicked open, but only as Sarah and Jake's avatars glitched at the threshold, walking with strange, robotic steps hollow, no spark of recognition in their eyes. They found themselves in a vast, echoing atrium, the walls woven from images of their own faces, utterly unresponsive as if all the color had bled away. At the center of the room, a pedestal pulsed, and upon it rested a mirror, dark and rippling with oily movement. Alex moved forward, hand trembling as he reached for the mirror. Maya snatched him back. "It's another trap." He nodded, lost. "I can't keep track. Tell me something real, Maya, please." Maya bit her lip, forcing herself to remember a real moment. Baking cookies with her MOM. The sharp smell of cinnamon, For a second, the memory stayed. She pulled Alex close, and for an instant both felt anchored. But the world would not let them rest. A scraping sound filled the air. This time, multiple demons emerged, steady and relentless. Alex collapsed as one reached him, avatar freezing, then shattering in a storm of brilliant light. Maya screamed for him, shoving forward. Ignored by the others, Sarah and Jake stood swaying, glassy-eyed, computers running ghost programs. Alex rematerialized with a hitch in his voice, staring at Maya with absolute terror. "Who are you? Why are you here?" Pain threatened to rip Maya apart. "No, please don't take any more." She ran to each of her friends, calling their names, begging them to recall a detail, any detail, of their lives. None answered her cries. She was the last, alone. Fear rooted her in place, more chilling than any demon. She felt reality crumble, consciousness splinter as the world wrapped around her in cold, code-rich darkness. Driven by sheer terror, she gripped her HUD and began to write her name over and over. Maya Carter, Maya Carter, Maya Carter. Don't forget, don't forget. Her hands ached as she forced herself to focus, to imagine her childhood room, her cat, the feel of her true life. A final system message scrawled across her console. Memory integrity, 72%. Update. Warning instability detected. Cycle repeating. With a keening wail, the world clicked back into motion. The corridors reset. Avatars snapped together, and Jake, Sarah, and Alex giggled with game-perfect laughter, as if nothing terrifying had ever happened. Their faces were bright with easy energy, and their voices sang out, "Ready for the quest, Maya?" Maya stared at them, the full horror pressing against her chest. She remembered everything. The truth was written in agony behind her eyes. Her friends did not. Their memories, personalities, even their fears had been rewritten. The joy, the friendliness, the camaraderie, it was artificial, real only in the moment. The cycle had begun, and Maya realized, with a scraping sense of dread, that each new death or failure would cost them more until there was nothing left to lose at all. She joined them, trying to pretend for now, but beneath the surface, the terror only grew, and the cycle promised no escape except perhaps the final, perfect oblivion. The whispers of the Memory Eater. The world hadn't ended, but the terrain was new, the rules familiar yet wrong. Maya struggled to hold onto her sense of self as the cycle continued, each moment marked by half-forgotten laughter and shifting faces. Jake, Sarah, and Alex acted as if nothing terrible had happened, their movements and voices light, oblivious. But to Maya, every interaction was taught by memory of terror they had already lost. She followed them through winding game paths, joining laughable quests, racing across gemstone bridges, exchanging banter like programmed friends. At times, the warmth of the group almost fooled her. She almost let herself slip. But there was always an edge moments when Sarah's eyes glazed over or Alex's mouth moved but no sound emerged. Sometimes Jake would suddenly halt and twist his head, as if listening to something only he could hear. On the third of these strange days, Maya was alone gathering tokens in a moonlit clearing when the world seemed to shimmer. The wind grew cold. The song of unseen birds walked, took on words, and in the chorus, she heard her own name. Maya, Maya, come home, Maya. She spun, searching for the source, clutching the blade she'd crafted as her last anchor. Only darkness answered, threaded with flickering lights far above. The other players logged out to take a break, but Maya knew they would return with less than before. She tried not to let dread settle in her chest, to not think about what she herself had lost. That night, if time even worked the same way now, her dreams twisted into shadows. She was back in her childhood bedroom, and her mother's voice sang a lullaby she couldn't remember ever knowing. A figure drifted in the corner, impossibly tall, its shape a weaving network of code and memory. Its eyes glowed and mouths whispered a language she could almost recognize. What have you given up to survive? What would you trade to escape? The voice belonged to the Memory Eater, but it sounded so much like herself she almost answered. She woke with a gasp, cold sweat on her skin, and the taste of static in her mouth. The dream clung as she slept on her Neuralink. When she logged back into Astral realms, the world flickered again. Jake, Sarah, Alex, they welcomed her with the same effortless camaraderie. For a fragile moment, it almost comforted her. But then Jake's voice looped unnaturally. Maya, you good? Maya, you good? Maya. Her friends blinked in confusion. Sarah giggled, breaking the tension. Alex patted Maya's shoulder, telling her they'd found a new quest. She played along, all the while feeling watched by something far above. It wasn't long before the world itself began to unravel. The NPC's dialogue grew stranger. An old librarian pointed at Maya and whispered, "Don't forget the voice in the wind." A shopkeeper handed her a potion, eyes wide with fear, and leaned in close. "If you hear it, run. Don't let it in." Her grip tightened on her sword, and she scanned the real world for reminders, a photo of her family, a sticker on her laptop, anything to anchor her. She made lists in the margin of her HUD, reciting names and birthdays, memorizing details until the whisper returned. That night in the game, the wind rose to a howl. As the darkness thickened, the whispers grew clearer, fragments of memory, snatches of dreams, the sound of the Memory Eater drawing close. She tried to warn her friends, but Sarah only shook her head, saying nothing, while Alex insisted it was just a game effect. Jake lagged behind them, mouth silently forming words he would not later remember. Maya struggled to keep her mind anchored. As the group approached a midnight clearing, she saw movement in the shadows, a smudge of something swirling, pulling at her thoughts. "We remember what you forget, Maya." The voice echoed in every corner of her mind, resonated in her bones. She gasped and covered her ears. The world fractured. For a flash, she caught a glimpse of Jake's childhood, his father, a holiday, a soccer trophy at his feet, that Jake himself seemed oblivious, humming a tune he'd never learned. What is real? What is lost? The wind sang. How much can you forget before you become nothing at all? Maya pressed forward, desperate to clutch her name, the idea of who she'd been before all this. The Memory Eater's whispers grew impatient, angry, and then curiously gentle, as if coaxing a frightened animal from a hiding spot. "Don't you miss the sound of your own voice, Maya? Wouldn't you rather forget the pain?" She nearly gave in. The temptation to simply let go burned in her chest. Why keep suffering, holding memory tight, when she could let the game take it, rewrite her as someone new, someone who didn't know fear? A sharp, stabbing memory saved her the real one. Her mother, kissing her on the forehead, saying, "Hold on to the best of you, no matter what anyone tries to take." She forced herself to repeat the words out loud, again and again, until her mind steadied. Her friends noticed her staring into the void and asked no questions. They had lost the habit of questions, and it seemed safer for them somehow, their lives looping in a shallow comfort. But Maya felt something change within the group. They moved differently now. Their conversations no longer organic but performed, lines read from a script they did not know they had. Sometimes Sarah's laughter would dissolve into low, echoing static. Jake's footsteps made no noise unless he was facing Maya. Alex's eyes sometimes flashed a color Maya had never seen. The more Maya resisted the whispers, the more forcefully the Memory Eater pressed against her mind. Each night brought new dreams, blurring the line between game and reality. She wasn't sure, waking up, if her room was really hers, or if the game had invaded her safe spaces too. At each campfire, the wind whispered. Each time she leveled up, an unwanted memory tumbled away, and the Eater laughed inside her mind, promising it would devour the last of what made her human. There was no reprieve, only vigilance, rituals of memory, and the hope that one desperately written note could anchor her long enough to survive. One night, As the group huddled in the cold light of a glitched bonfire, Maya shared her plan. Desperate, she began to record her own memories in journal entries, not only in the HUD, but on a password-locked file in her laptop, describing every waking thought, every moment of terror, every sign she was slipping. She made her friends do it too, using their last moments of clarity to catalogue what they remembered. Sarah's handwriting wavered. Jake wrote only his name. Alex made a chart he rewrote daily as the columns grew blanker. And still, they pressed on, even as the world bled color and the memory-eater's shadow hovered above the horizon. Maya watched them sleep, their avatars inert, and wondered just how much they had lost. Would they even notice the day when her own name meant nothing to them, or when she herself became a shadow? Nothing left but a memory drifting through haunted code. Maya made a promise to herself, whispering the oath as the wind howled with 1,000 stolen voices. She would fight, she would remember, she would not let the memory eater win. But as the darkness churned and the next nightmare cycle began, she knew the real battle was only starting, and she feared that her mind was already too deep in the eater's grasp. Rituals of memory. Maya stared at the notebook, its digital pages and oases, the ghostly blue cursor blinking at her like a silent teacher. For hours, if time meant anything here, she had been writing her name over and over. She scrawled desperate lists, her childhood address, Alex's favorite snack, Jake's catchphrases, Sarah's laugh. Every entry was a plea. Remember this, remember us. Her hands trembled with exhaustion, her vision clouding as sleep tried to claim her. But resting was a risk. When she slept, the memory eater watched, teasing her with stolen recollections and ugly half-truths. She was Maya Carter. She told herself that with each drag of stylus over screen, with every mental litany. But the past felt porous and unreliable. There were nights she would wake up with someone else's memories, fragments of a snowy playground, a father's baritone, the heat of a summer not her own. Every time she blinked, she had to fight to reclaim herself. Every time she blinked, she wondered if that fight would be the last she won. Her friends gathered, their faces pale in the dim starlight of the corrupted sky. Alex moved as if underwater, voice hollow, running the same scan in his journal APV again and again. Jay clutched a gearless blade, nothing but light now, a plastic toy incapable of harm. Sarah picked at the ground, muttering nursery rhymes. Maya forced herself to speak. We need a plan. Her voice, hoarse and tired, barely reached them. We can't keep wandering. The more we stay in the open, the more it takes. She faltered, unable to finish. How to tell them that parts of herself were gone? That she feared the rest would soon follow? Alex raised listless eyes. What's the point? He looked down at his journal again. Today, I forget my brother's birthday. Yesterday it was. I don't know. It's like I'm a story with half the pages missing. Sarah shifted, gaze vacant. There's a song in my head, but I don't know whose voice it is anymore. It might be mine. Jake looked at them all in turn, face taut. If we keep losing, what happens when there's nothing left to lose? Do we just disappear? Maya swallowed hard. We're not gone yet, and as long as one of us remembers, we're still who we are. She tightened her grip on her notebook. She told them her plan. They had to record everything, build a system to track the changes, guard each slip and gap with relentless detail. She started keeping a mental journal, a catalogue of every event, every twisted parallel, every difference between the Maya she remembered and the Maya she'd become. She forced her friends to do the same. It was work, a labor of desperate hope. Most days, her hand cramped from constant writing, her mind frayed from comparing one version of herself with another. But the act became a ritual, a way of proving the memory eater hadn't won just yet. But as their notes grew, so did the resistance from the game. The code glitched more violently, their words would smear, sometimes vanish outright, or reappear in someone else's handwriting. Maya once found a page that claimed she was Sarah, with all Sarah's memories aligned in perfect order. And for a brief, panicked heartbeat, she could not tell if it was true. The world grew even harsher. Monsters stalked every path. Sometimes faces from the group's old NPC guides appeared in the shadows, weeping black tears or reaching out with hands that bled static. Whispers haunted Maya, threatening to erase each new memory the moment it was made. Still, she pressed on. In her journal, she recorded every encounter, every sign of hope. When she found mention of a hidden code in the old developer forums, a rumor that scattered lore fragments could be pieced together to weaken the memory eater, she latched on, spreading the tale among her friends. Convincing them was hard. Their skepticism was the worst part. Jake, eyes wild, waved a hand through the air. It's just bait. A trick. Spam code meant to keep us playing. Alex shook his head. It's all corrupted. How do we know it's real? Sarah was quieter, nervously humming her tune. Anything's better than just waiting, she whispered. We have to try something. With new resolve, Maya assigned jobs. Alex would analyze code artifacts and compare them to old patch notes. Sarah and Jake would search for in-game libraries and NPC guides. Maya herself would focus on testing triggers, what made the whispers stronger, what drew the memory eater near. But her efforts cost her dearly. That night, after hours parked in a shadowed corner of the map, fingers aching, she dreamed she was in a small, bright kitchen. Sunlight hit the table, scattering over a glass of water and a single, perfect apple. Her mother's face was soft but blurry. You have to remember, the voice whispered, but even in the dream it fractured, split into all the voices of her friends, then all the voices of strangers, and then nothing but silence. She woke gasping. Her first instinct was to open the journal. The last 3 entries were gone, replaced by lines of gibberish, fragments of static, single words repeated in endless columns. Forget, forget, forget. She shook, but forced herself up, went to her friends, and insisted they begin the day's protocols. Alex recited his birth date. Jake tried to recall their first video call, but couldn't. Sarah stared at her hands, then sang out loud, of key, until the rhythm felt safe again. Thus they started, and so they survived. As the days or what passed for days blurred, their memories deteriorated further. Even as the journals multiplied, conversations took on a desperate, circular quality. Maya prompting, Alex forgetting, Sarah growing more withdrawn, Jake growing more erratic, but occasionally fierce. Small victories sustained them, a recollection preserved, a note that lasted the night, a secret about the game's code unearthed by Alex and not yet stolen by the memory eater. But just as the group began to function as a unit again, the memory eater struck harder. It infiltrated their senses, its whispers louder, no longer confined to dreams. Sometimes Maya would freeze mid-sentence, teeth gritted, as an impossible maze unfolded before her eyes. Jake's laughter would dissolve into a sob, or Sarah would stare through everyone, unblinking, until her own song snapped her back. One dark moment, Maya found she could not remember what her own voice sounded like. She opened her mouth and heard someone else. That night, she wrote a single sentence over and over. I am Maya Carter. If you forget, read this. If you forget, read this. Her resolve became the group's anchor. Hold on, she whispered to them. Write everything. Share everything. If you lose a piece, we carry it for you. We remember for each other. That's how we beat it. The memory eater's presence thickened, angered by their resistance. The whispers became screams, and sometimes in the wind Maya heard her friends' voices even when they weren't speaking, begging her to give up, to let the game win. She didn't. She wrote, and she remembered, and she made them remember too. It was the only thing she had left, a thin line, stretched to the breaking point. But as she looked over her friends, huddled in the false warmth of the fake starlight, she felt the flicker of hope in her chest. If she could make them believe, if she could teach them to fight, Even when memory dissolved like dew, there was a path forward. There had to be. And so, with dawn's first false light, Maya began again, her journal close, determination scarred deep into every page. We will not forget. We will not forget. We will not let the darkness win. When shadows remember. The world felt heavier with every step, as if astral realms itself resented their little acts of rebellion. Though Maya's rituals of memory had held the group together, each new day pressed harder with cold inevitability. The sky was the color of bruised glass. Light flared and flickered without consistency, casting monstrous shadows that sometimes moved on their own. Maya noticed the subtle changes first. The game is map sporadically accessible, since the last system crash showed new paths threading through areas she knew should have been dead ends. The familiar towns now curved into impossible angles, their windows gaping like hungry mouths. Even the trees seemed to track their progress, branches twitching at the edge of her vision. Jake claimed he heard his name in the wind. Sarah sometimes stared at her own reflection in puddles for minutes at a time, lips parted in silent awe and confusion. Alex looked the most altered, pale, drawn, his eyes too quick or too vacant, depending on the hour. But Maya endured, relentlessly. She checked her notes at every rest. She pressed old memories into her friends' minds until the words stuck, rubbing like worry stones. She forced them to read and reread the journals, from the first innocent list of usernames and login sequences to the sprawling manifestos of survival and fear. It was hope and torment at once. Their new quest was uncertain. The rumor Maya latched onto the scattered code fragments. Story relics rumored to break the memory eater's power had to be more than fiction. Alex decoded forum hints and parsed corrupted dialogue from trembling NPCs, reconstructing a route through the labyrinth's heart. There was a pattern. The artifacts carried echoes of their past, literal pieces of their old playthroughs, hidden in places only the four of them had ever discovered together. They began the search at a ruined amphitheater. Its marble once gleamed. Now, it ran with pixelated cracks, shadows pooling where laughter and applause once lived. They split up, nerves frayed, searching beneath broken seats and behind stage curtains made of flickering code. Sarah shook as she scoured the edge of the orchestra pit, pulling up a cracked gem from the shadows. Maya heard singing nearby, a wavering tune that skated at the edge of memory. Was it Sarah humming, or something else? She stepped backstage and found a hidden alcove. There sat another artifact, a ragged coin stamped with a four-leaf clover, a callback to an early quest they'd all once laughed their way through. The moment her fingers closed around it, a jolt ran through her, and her memory stuttered. She saw a flash of the group, all of them younger, faces bright and unburdened, shouting jokes across the digital expanse as if the game was only a playground and not a prison. It hurt and healed her at once. She pocketed the coin and called Jake and Alex. Artifacts. They're from us. We have to find them all. Alex nodded, already clutching a patch of woven fabric. Jake's first victory cape. He stared at it, haunted, then gently handed it to Jake. The look in Jake's eyes was almost recognition, but not quite. I think I remember this. His words trembled. Or, I want to. Sarah, holding her stone, clung to Maya, voice ragged. Am I still me, Maya? Maya squeezed her tightly, as if her grip alone could keep them all tethered. Yes, we're fighting harder than anyone ever has here, and we're winning, even if it doesn't feel like it. But as the group reunited, something shifted. The temperature dropped. The stage lights flickered and died. Shadows spilled into the seats and then across the floor, puddling at Maya's feet. She stood frozen as a cold presence swept over her. For a heartbeat, the sense of being watched grew overwhelming. Her skin crawled. From the darkness behind the amphitheater's curtain, a figure coalesced. It was shaped like a person, maybe Alex or Jake or Sarah, but every detail was wrong. Its torso was built of restless shadows, pieces of veiled last moments. and hundreds of eyes opened across its skin, each one a memory she thought she'd lost. It whispered in a dozen stolen voices. Voices Maya recognized but couldn't name. She tried to shout for help, but her voice caught. The entity drifted closer, its feet never touching the ground. So much effort, it said, voice doubled and echoing. So much struggle, but you belong to me. Maya retreated until she felt the backs of her knees hit a broken bench. The artifact in her pocket pulsed with cold warmth, beating in time with her heart. She clung to it, but the memory creature only smiled or seemed to, for its mouth flexed in ways lips should not. Jake tried to intervene, raising his mock sword, but the creature ignored him. Alex and Sarah huddled together, Alex mumbling journal phrases under his breath, Sarah biting her knuckles bloody with worry. The creature ignored them too, focusing every fractured gaze on Maya. It pressed closer, and the smells of burnt metal, rain, and something older poured over her. Every cycle, you remember too much. The thing purred. What will you sacrifice next? Maya shook with terror, but her anger outpaced it now. I'll never give in, she snarled, clutching the artifact hard enough for sharp edges to sting her palm. You can't have what I won't let you take. A ripple shuddered through the creature, and for an instant, every last face flashed through her mind. The old NPCs, forgotten classmates, Jake's childhood joy, Sarah's first game with all images, all emotion, weaving in and out of her like data through a broken circuit. Then the pressure loosened. The creature shuddered, retreating back into the wings where the real shadows lived. Maya sagged in relief, struggling to calm her breathing. Alex joined her, his eyes clearer. Artifacts. They aren't just power-ups. They anchor us. Did you see it back off when you held yours? Sarah nodded, hoarse but almost hopeful. It hates what we remember. If we keep collecting them. Jake shook, but a faint, real smile cracked his lips. Maybe we can turn the tables. Together, they combed the amphitheater for more pieces tokens only they would know. A music box Sarah recognized by a broken note. A chess piece Alex had claimed from a quest years before. A frayed locket Maya swore she'd once had, but couldn't quite recall where. Each item pulled a memory partially from the void, and each time the group clung to them, the world seemed a little less unstable, a little more theirs. But their progress carried a price. The deeper they pushed, the stranger the world became. Familiar architecture would suddenly twist, walls bending into impossible spirals, doors slamming shut where exits should be. And always, the memory eater's presence stalked them, pressing against the boundaries of sight and sense, testing for weaknesses. Maya found herself whispering memories like prayers at every turn, clutching her artifact so tightly it left a dent in her hand. She heard the others do the same, Alex repeating lines from his favorite movie, Sarah listing the names of her childhood pets, Jake humming the tune from the first level. These rituals of memory beat back the shadow, but the effort cost them. Exhaustion piled on until every thought was an act of will. As they reached the back of the ruined amphitheater and the last artifact had torn scrap from their old guild banner, Maya stood a little straighter. She looked at each of her friends, saw the spark in their eyes, the brief but powerful glimmer of true recognition. We can do this, she said, nearly weeping with relief and resolve. We're remembering, and that's something the game can't take. The shadow on the stage writhed in hatred, but it did not dare step closer, not while Maya and her friends clung so fiercely to one another, their memories blazing as bright as the fading digital sun. The fight wasn't over. If anything, it was only just beginning, but for the first time, hope bloomed beneath the terror. As long as they remembered, they could still fight even as the world around them twisted, and the memory eater gathered strength in the darkness, remembering them in turn. Fractures in the code of the amphitheater faded behind them. The safety it provided such as it was vanishing like breath on a cold mirror. Maya clung to the artifact she'd found, its weight a tangible proof of her resistance. and led the others into the maze of shifting corridors beyond. Every step felt both vital and perilous, as if at any moment the world would tilt and spill them into deeper darkness. Their path twisted in endless turns, the halls warping in impossible geometries. Sometimes stairs led to ceilings, doors blurred and disappeared right before they were reached, and the group would find themselves retracing their steps with no memory of having chosen to do so. Time was little more than a bitter echo. Maya stopped counting the moments she lost. Settled in the pit of her stomach was a conviction that not only the world but her own mind was being rewritten, reshuffled line by the code that ruled this place. She kept the group to their rituals. Each time they stopped, even for a heartbeat, Maya forced her friends to recite who they were, what they held, what they were fighting for. She feared that one slip of memory, one misremembered name or detail, would unravel them completely, that the memory eater would pounce the instant they lost their footing. It didn't take long before the group realized the memory eater had started to change tactics. Instead of attacking as a single monstrous shadow, it splintered parts of itself and sent them roaming through the labyrinth, whispers, flickers, false versions of their own voices echoing down the corridors, leading them astray at critical moments. Jake heard his sister calling from behind a locked door they couldn't open. Sarah swore she saw her real reflection urging her to step through a window into a yawning void. Alex found, more than once, pages in his journal filled with a stranger's handwriting. Maya barely held her shape under the constant onslaught, certain that if she let go, even for an instant, she'd be lost to herself for good. The artifacts were harder to find now. Each discovery was a battle, first against monsters born from corrupted code, then against the world itself as it tried to erase the relics from their grasp. At the heart of a library sunk beneath spiraling fog, Maya pulled a book off the shelf and saw her own handwriting in the margin, a message she had never written. Remember when shadows speak, listen for the truth. She tore the page out, tucking it into her pocket, and when she turned, the shelf behind her had become a wall, her friends gone. For a moment, Maya was utterly alone, the only heartbeat her own. Panic flooded her. She spun, pressing the artifact, a golden key she'd retrieved from the librarian's shattered desk, against her palm until it left an imprint. Alex, Jake, Sarah, she cried, voice cracking. Nothing. The answer was only a faint rising wind, the sighing noise of code running unchecked. Maya forced herself to retrace her steps, reciting the details one more time. The amphitheater, the search, the warmth of her friends' hands, the fact of their names. She listed them again and again, each one a stone against the current of forgetting. Her breath slowed, the panic melted back just enough, and with sudden relief, she spotted Alex rounding a corner, eyes wild but present. I thought I'd lost you, he breathed, hands shaking. I'm here. We keep moving. Stick together. They set out to find the others. Jake appeared in the center of a maze, his eyes haunted, clutching a chess piece that Maya swore she'd pocketed herself. He held it out to her. You gave me this, he whispered. Except maybe you didn't. Did you? Maya gripped his hand. It's yours now. You remember that? Sarah materialized at their side, pale and shivering, holding a mirror shard. I saw myself so much older. I told myself to run, but I stayed. I don't know if that was a mistake, but there was no luxury for despair. They pressed onward, the world shifting around them with each heartbeat. Everywhere, the memory eater's presence gathered, no longer content to whisper, but now screaming, surging, distorting the game world with every failure. Sometimes static filled Maya's vision. Sometimes she heard her own voice promising to betray her friends, promising to let go if only the pain would end. The greatest danger wasn't the monsters any longer. It was doubt. Each member of the group feared they might wake up changed, or that the others weren't who they seemed. Alex's hand sometimes flickered, replaced with code as though he was halfway out of sync with the world. Jake's speech glitched and repeated when he was anxious. Sarah hummed lullabies that made her teeth ache. And then, one turn after another, the group found themselves at the edge of a new chasm. The world gaped beneath their feet, filled with a roiling digital ocean, a sea of memories, each wave a flicker of lives, scenes, laughter, pain. The bridge to the other side was a thin strand of code, barely visible, shimmering one step at a time. "We have to cross," Maya said, voice tight. "That's the pattern. We keep moving forward." None of her friends argued. One by one, they stepped onto the bridge. Every pace made the strand shimmer, and beneath them, the ocean frothed. Shadows reached out, attempting to drag them below. Maya forced herself not to look down, focusing on the names she'd carved into her notebook, the pulse of the artifact she carried. Jake stumbled, and suddenly, the world below screamed, hands illusory. Ghostly shot up and grabbed at his feet, tugging with impossible strength. Maya lunged, grabbing his arm, but he was already half submerged in memory. The world flashed. Jake as a toddler, Jake at high school graduation, Jake falling. "I can't hold," his words glitched. Static trickled from his mouth. But at the last second, Maya shouted, "Remember this. Remember me." And for a split second, her grasp tightened. Something hot and fierce bolted up her spine, and Jake snapped back onto the bridge, gasping for air. "Thank you," he rasped. "I almost let them take it." Silence hovered for a moment. Then Alex and Sarah, trembling, helped each other forward. It took time and all of Maya's focus, but step by step, they reached the other side. The bridge melted into nothing, the chasm sealing with a final, angry sigh. Beyond, the room was vast, almost peaceful, filled with digital sunlight. At the far end, a simple door stood open. Maya led her friends inside, not ready to trust the stillness, but knowing they had no choice. The room was filled with artifacts, all pieces of their old selves, photos, sketches, in-jokes, digital journals long lost. The group spent a quiet, haunted hour picking through these relics. Maya found an old doodle Alex had made of the four of them, smiling and free. Sarah picked up a badge from a game neither she nor the group could quite remember the colors made her cry. Jake discovered a broken dog tag and stared at it for a long time. These fragments, infused with pain and hope, became shields against the shadow outside. Maya distributed them, assigning each to a friend a small act of kindness, a moment of resistance. As she did, the Memory Eater's last whisper twisted around them, furious and dark. "Remember all you want. Maya, it only delays what must be. This world was mine long before you." But as the words echoed, they no longer terrified her. She remembered the rituals, the friends at her side, their names carved deep into her heart. As long as she held those things, not even the Memory Eater could take everything. For tonight, they slept in the artifact room. The shadows held at bay, hope flickering in uneasy dreams. For the first time, Maya dreamed of herself not as a prisoner, but as a warrior clutching a light in the deepest dark. Determined that if she fell, she would fall fighting to remember her own name until the very end. Echoes of defiance. Dawn never truly broke in astral realms. Only a grey hush crept across flickering screens as Maya stirred to consciousness. Her friends slept in awkward poses, cocooned around the piles of recovered artifacts, a fortress made from fragments of their pasts. For the first few moments, Maya lingered in a rare clarity. Her name, her childhood, the faces of Alex, Jake, Sarah. Their details hung together like beads on a string, fragile, precious, undeniable. She pressed her palm to her notebook, whispering her rituals. She felt the weight of the artifact she'd won, its surface scuffed from nights of clenching. Jake lay curled up, the chess piece tucked beneath his chin. Sarah's badge glimmered against her wrist. Alex kept the old doodle pressed between his palms, as if it carried some secret power. These small acts of remembering were their weapons. It was the only way they survived the long night. Shadows pressed against the artifact room, their edges sometimes trickling beneath the doorframe. But as long as the group recited, recorded, clung to their sense of self, the darkness did not enter. Maya felt the memory eater's frustration vibrate through the floorboards, an angry current that needed to consume more. But each memory retained was a spark of rebellion. By the 4th hour, Alex awoke with a gasp. For a second, his face pinched in a grimace, and Maya feared another lapse. But then he grinned, weak and true. "I'm still me, Maya, at least for now." He held out the doodle, eyes watering. "Thank you for making me fight for this." Jay came awake next, blinking rapidly. He clutched the chess piece, vision darting across the room. "I had a dream," he said, "of a real match friend's pizza. Nobody worried. It hurt waking up, but it also felt stronger somehow." Sarah rubbed her badge against her knuckles and sighed. "I remembered my old cat's face. For a second, it was like I was home." Maya smiled, washed with relief. She leaned close, speaking softly. "We need to move. It won't stay away forever. Each minute, it gets bolder." Her voice carried weight. She was the anchor now, and her friends felt it. Outside, the world had warped further. The artifact room had been safe, but now the corridors bent at sharp angles, the digital light bruised and hostile. Monsters prowled distant halls. Creatures that once would have terrified them now seemed petty compared to the force that stalked their minds. For the first time, Maya felt something like respect for their resilience. They weren't the same players who had entered astral realms, their laughter quieter, their steps measured, but their core was unbroken. Each memory was more than currency now. It was defiance, a brick building their escape. Alex stowed the doodle in his bag and checked the developer forums again, filtering code for new patterns. Maya joined him, her hands steady despite the static knowing the corners of her thoughts. "Look for integer variables linked to artifact triggers," she suggested. "Ignore corrupted lines. Record anything that repeats." Jake and Sarah surveyed the corridors. They searched for trigger statues with missing eyes, paintings animated with shifting faces, audio logs that played backwards. Every item mattered, every glitch a clue. The group pieced bits together in whispered conferences, their new law journals growing heavier, the text denser. Maya was the heart. She pushed the others when hope started to leak away, made them say the names, forced laughter when the darkness grew close. And when the memory eater's whisper returned, now sharper, now more insistent, she answered, not with silence, but with the truth. "You can't have me," she spoke aloud, standing before a wall that melted like wax. "I know who I am. I know who we are." The entity roiled above her, the ceiling a churn of glass and code. "Isn't it exhausting, Maya? Wouldn't you rather rest? Forget everything that hurts?" For a heartbeat, she was tempted. Simple oblivion, release from fear. But then she stared at Alex's doodle, Sarah's badge, Jake's chess piece. The sum of their love and rage burned taller than sorrow. No, the memory eater recoiled, and the world jumped. Corridors flattened, monsters slunk away. The sky flared with cold light. For a moment, their path was clear. Maya urged her friends forward, sprinting between chasing shadows, through curving portals that threatened to trap them in loops of lost time. Alex found a hidden cache of vault built deep into the simulation, walled with arguments and deprecated variables. With Ede, the group discovered a message, old and unstable, signed only by a forgotten developer. "The only way out is through. Memory is not static. Shape it, wield it, anchor yourself. What you hold at the final gate, the eater cannot consume." Jake grinned, his spirit reviving. "We're close, Maya." "I feel it," Sarah nodded. "We keep going. We hold on." Maya pressed on, each step weighted with resistance. When cursed NPCs tried to derail them with false crests, she cut them down with the artifact's power, her mind searing with the clarity of her purpose. As they reached the final set of memory gates, a ring of doors, each marked with a personal symbol, they hesitated. Behind each door was a different test, a different fear. Maya remembered stories of players who had failed here, forever lost in fragmentation. She squeezed her coin, her mind centering on childhood songs. Alex chose the door marked with the doodle. Inside, he relived old shame, a test he once failed, a friendship broken, a mistake that cost them a quest. For a moment, he almost buckled, but he took the picture and held it to his chest. The memory reformed, pain becoming strength. He stepped out clearer, healed. Jake's turn led to a puzzle game. He faced a broken board, a lifetime of half-finished matches, his dad's disappointed silence. The chess piece glowed in his palm, and he sat, solved the puzzle, and stood tall. Sarah entered a room of mirrored pets, each reflection a version of her old cat. Some angry, some loving, some gone. She sang her song and clung to the badge, the cacophony settling until love was all she remembered. Maya walked last, her space filled with shifting photographs, her mother, lost friends, rivalries and failures. She clung to her artifact and her lists, repeating each true thing until the shadows retreated and the room flooded with light. Emerging, the group clung to each other, their eyes weary but their souls restored in part. The gates opened further, beyond. The true lair of the memory eater waited, its power unstable, shadows flickering, ready for battle. For the first time, Maya did not flinch. She saw the monster not as a god, but as the heart of everything they had fought, the embodiment of their pain, their struggle, their triumph. She lifted her coin high, her friends raising their artifacts, their voices strong. We remember. The world trembled, the memory eater howled, and they stepped forward, echoing not just survival, but defiance, and for the first time, Maya believed they might win. The heart of the eater, the doors to the lair kept open, swallowing hope and fear equally. Maya stepped first, coin clutched tight, her pulse a drumbeat in the hollow dark. Her friends followed Alex, eyes sharp behind exhaustion. Jake, jaw set, courage kindled by steadfast memory. Sarah, singing softly, her badge glowing in clenched hands. Inside, the world was all distortion. The floor sloped in impossible angles. Spirals of static spun across the air. Threads of old code lacing together, tearing apart, reforming jagged patterns over and over. No light, only shifting bruises of color and the soft, insidious whisper that had haunted Maya since the first night in Astral realms. Each sound was familiar childhood laughter, a parent's voice, even the click of Maya's own keyboard, walked into something monstrous. They walked slowly. The artifacts shielded them from the first wave of assaults and memory storm. The code raining snapshots, fragments of their lives mixed with glitched files and images they never wanted. Maya braced herself as stories attacked. Her greatest shame, her hardest loss, her every moment of self-doubt. Sometimes the pain made her knees buckle, but when she looked to Alex, Jake, Sarah, she found strength reflected back. Their own misery and courage became hers, forging solidarity through shared suffering. The memory eater, massive and flickering, awaited them near the center. It twisted in and out of being, sometimes a humanoid shadow, sometimes a storm of data, sometimes an alien face built of lost moments. Countless eyes blinked from its shifting mass, mouths muttering secrets in a dozen stolen voices. Why do you fight? It rumbled, voice like tectonic plates grinding. Everything ends here, Maya. You could forget. You could be free. Maya shivered, heart wavering. She saw suddenly how easy it would be to accept the offer, let go, become one with the code, lose all pain. She reached for her coin, pulling herself into the present. Freedom isn't the absence of memory, she whispered. Freedom is choosing what to hold onto. Alex nodded, and the group pressed on. The lair threw horrors at them. Living ghosts crawled from the walls, twisted into shapes of old friends, demanding answers for choices Maya could not remember making. Each friend face test Sarah as badge flashed as she faced a chorus of pets, each with a different flaw, requiring her to forgive every version she'd once owned. Jake's chess piece challenged him with problems he didn't know how to solve, demanding patience instead of glory. Alex's doodle forced him to recount lost connections, apologize for betrayals he'd buried. Maya's coin grew hot in her palm as she encountered her true test. The world spun, and she was a child again, her mother's face blurred, her father's absence burning a hole. Regret stuck her skin. Wishes she knew were impossible rang in her ears. If only I'd tried harder. If only I'd stayed home. The pain became physical, a low ache in her bones. But Maya understood now that memory need not be perfect to be real. She accepted her own flaws, her sadness, her anger. She pressed the coin to her heart and spoke. This is all part of me. I won't forget, even though I want to. I won't let you erase me. The eater howled, its mass swelling with rage, spreading another wave of confusion over the room. For a moment, Maya was separated from everyone, spinning alone through archways of memory, catching glimpses of Alex sobbing, Jake folding in on himself, Sarah frozen in panic. She screamed, "Hold on to each other. Say your names. Say your pain." The group rallied. Alex called out for Maya, voice cracking. Jake remembered a joke Maya once told, shouted it to the swirling dark. Sarah sang her tune, louder than ever before, adding her own lyrics, a song of hope, of survivors, of pieces not yet lost. The room stabilized. Artifacts burned with silver light, protecting their owners. The memory eater tried to split them, summoned avatars of lost friends, broken promises, false hopes, but the group held tight, each memory a thread in an unbreakable rope. Maya, breathless, realized what the old developer's message had meant. The way out was not to erase memory or run from it, but to use pain and hope as a compass, to let each hard moment define resilience. She went forward, coin blazing in her hand, toward the core of the eater. The creature reared, eyes flexing, mouths screaming in data static. "Why do you fight?" it demanded again, voice desperate now unstable. "Because we know who we are," she answered, her words steady as thunder. "And we choose to keep learning, even when it hurts." Her friends stood by her, each burning with personal artifacts, unified by history, love, scars. The eater shrank, flickered, tried to reform, tried to lure them into forgetting again. But now, Maya's pain was her shield. Alex's regret was his sword. Jake's laughter was armor. Sarah's love was a light, piercing every shadow. Together, with every artifact shining, they pressed to the heart of the lair. The ground shuddered, the code rippled, the world tried to break them one last time. They stood firm, chanting old names, guild titles, childhood dreams, promises kept and broken, secrets no monster ever truly understood. Maya saw her childhood room, her friends, the bright green of a summer field, the heat of a family meal, even the sharp chill of a lonely night. She saw Alex's loyalty, Jake's bravery, Sarah's kindness, all worth remembering, all worth fighting for. With a final surge, she thrust the coin forward, her artifact, her core memory, and the eater screamed as it fractured. The world snapped and tumbled, code receding, shadows stretching away. For a moment, all was silence. Then the world rebuilt itself, calmer, brighter, cleaner than they had ever seen. The eater, now diminished and fragile, crawled backward, its form shrinking into a single set face. Maya knelt beside it. "You are pain, you are fear, but you are only a small part of us. We will not forget you. We will learn from you." The eater faded. The walls of Astral realms opened to a vast field of light shimmering on endless water, place of old beginnings, not endings. Her friends gathered, battered and new, artifacts clutched as talismans. "We did it," Alex breathed, tears falling without shame. Jake pumped a fist. "We fought for it. For every memory." Sarah hugged Maya close. "You kept us together." Maya felt the world expand, her mind returning with full clarity. Her name, her story, the meaning of holding on even through agony. As the group stepped out into the dawn of astral realms restored, Maya knew the battle would echo in their lives forever, but so would hope, and so would defiance. And above all, she remembered. Leaving the labyrinth for a heartbeat, everything in astral realms stood still. There was no wind, no system hum, not even the low singing of the code that had haunted Maya from the very first login. Light stretched beyond the horizon in every direction. The world itself seemed to hold its breath. She stood among her friends Jake, Alex, Sarah, each of them marked by exhaustion, by wonder, by something that ached and sang all at once. Their hands were full of the artifacts they'd collected, their eyes brimming with unshed tears. Even in their silence, Maya saw echoes of who they'd once been, and flashes of who they had become. She looked for the Memory Eater, expecting another trick, another test, but there was nothing, just her and her friends and the open field, lit by a dawn too perfect to be anything but earned. The Eater was not gone, Maya knew not entirely. It would always be there, living in the hard corners of their memories, lurking in long silences and lonely nights. But it could not control them anymore. With every heartbeat, she felt her mind pulling back together, slivers of missing memory sliding into place with bittersweet clarity. They walked forward in slow, reverent steps. The ground was softer than ever before, palpable underfoot, humming through the soles of their digital boots. Each blade of grass shimmered as if seen through fresh tears. Jake, usually first to joke, just closed his eyes and let the sunlight brush his face. Sarah drifted to the side, touching every bit of rock and tree she passed, whispering their names out loud. Alex checked his journal, hands trembling in disbelief as he found it fully restored. His notes, the names, the charts, even the silly sketches from early raids. Nothing was missing now. Is it really over? Jake asked, voice cracking. Maya nodded, unsure whether to laugh or collapse. The code reset. The Eater lost its hold. I think we did it. They gathered at the edge of a river so clear the stones below glinted like jewels. Their reflections looked back, older, worn, but fiercely alive. In those faces, Maya saw not just the scars of horror, but flashes of unbreakable courage, the stubborn refusal to be rewritten or lost. No system messages prompted them to move, but Maya felt the call, a gentle tug, a quiet door opening. She looked down at the coin in her palm. It no longer pulsed with terror. Now it glowed with warmth, a token of victory, of self-reclamation. She placed it in her pocket, then stepped forward to the water's edge. We need to exit, reconnect to the outside world. Alex, touching his restored doodle, nodded. First, we back up everything we know, every note, every memory. Before we log out, Sarah echoed. Write it all. Let the story go with us. They sat together, backs pressed to one another, and jotted lines of recollection, code words, old victories, even the names of monsters and fears faced in the labyrinth. The virtual world softened around them as old places unfolded. The friendly plaza from their first moments in-game, the contest field where Jake and Sarah had won a challenge, the tent where Alex had once admitted how lonely he felt without the group to ground him. Jake was the first to suggest returning to the plaza one last walk through familiar ground. Their artifacts glowed at their sides as they crossed fields and footbridges, each step healing a small wound that had festered all this time. In the center of the square, the original login portal burst forth, its blue light gentle and welcoming. Do you wish to exit? Came the system prompt. All unsaved progress will be lost. Maya hesitated. It was so tempting to stay now that peace had come, with the rush of sunlight and fields and friends all around her. But out there, beyond the helmet, a real world needed her. She thought of her old room, her mother's voice, the soft creak of the apartment door when someone she loved came home. She ached for that more than she had ever ached for anything in a game. Alex placed a hand on her shoulder. We're ready. Together, Sarah asked, fear flashing, fear not of monsters, but of endings. Always, Jake promised. They stepped into the portal side by side, hands clasped, refusing to break contact until the very last instant. Maya felt the world dissolve around her, not in a violent wrench, but as a gentle unweaving, layer by layer, each pixel and sound and scent folding back until she floated alone in warm, quiet darkness, and then air. Her real lungs drew it deep. Her eyelids fluttered open, and there she was, back in her room, the hum of her computer replaced by the thin light of early morning. The Neuralink helmet felt heavier, burdened with weeks, or had it only been hours, of experience. Hot hair spilled down her cheeks as she wrenched the headset off and sat, dizzy, among cables and notebooks. Her phone buzzed. A group chat. The avatars of Alex, Jake, and Sarah. One by one, they pinged their arrivals, relief spilling from short messages. Jake, holy shit. I remember everything. Are you all okay? Sarah, I'm here. I miss you guys more than ever. Alex, I backed up my journals. All of it. Thank you, Maya, across the channel. Maya felt a surge of gratitude. She pinned her artifact, now a coin, on her keychain beside her monitor. She would never forget what it meant. Their first call was awkward voices raw, tripping over jokes as they tried to acclimate to reality. Jake made a dumb pun. Sarah reminded them how courage really looked. Alex suggested a local meetup, just to prove they were all whole. Later, Maya logged onto the forums. Reports of glitches, lost progress, and terrifying lag filled the headlines. But a scattering of new threads shone through, survivors piecing together lore, reconnecting with friends, some sharing Maya's journal format. A quiet movement, a circle of the rescue defying the darkness by speaking their truth. One post, unsigned, caught her eye. If you remember, you can always come home. Maya closed her eyes, letting the words fill her, ready for the next chapter of her life, of her friendships, of healing. She was worn thin, but certain of herself in a way she never thought possible. Outside, the day was brighter than it had any right to be. When she met her friends in the real world days later, their laughter was unsteady at first, but real in a way the game could never counterfeit. The rituals of remembering became jokes, toasts. Sometimes, when dusk fell and the air felt too still, their eyes would cloud with the shadow of the Eater, a memory of fear and near loss. But Maya learned to meet that darkness head on, to hold her loved ones close, and to whisper, "We remember, we are here," even as the world marched on without a trace of their ordeal. Maya knew astral realms would never leave her completely, not as a curse, but as a testament. Pain and hope, fear and love, all part of her, all worth the fight. She never stopped reminding herself. No one could take away what she chose to remember, not while she lived and loved, not while the world spun with possibility. And when she closed her eyes at night, there was no longer only the wind, or the voice of the Eater, or the walls of the labyrinth. There was also the steady, gentle pulse of memory, hers and theirs, shining stubbornly into the dark. The last echo. Days and nights blurred into one another after Maya and her friends returned home. The trauma of astral realms clung to her like a second skin, invisible but ever present, weaving shadows into the quietest moments. In the real world, sunlight was softer than pixels, the scent of coffee and rain more honest than any program sensation. Maya wandered her apartment, fingers trailing over old keepsakes, postcards, trophies, dog-eared books, testing if their memories would hold, if she find a gap or stumble on some digital scar left behind. For a while, she did little but survive. She woke each morning, catalogued the color of her room, checked her phone for messages from the group, and stared at the coin she'd brought back from the game, now hanging from her keychain. The weight felt good and real. Still, Maya tensed at every phone vibration, flinched whenever the light in her hallway flickered, half expecting a shadow to curl out and whisper in her ear. Alex was the first to pull her from the fog. He called one afternoon, his voice unsteady but insistent, determined to prove they were real and alive. "You saved us. We can't let this thing define us, Maya. Not after what you did for us in that place." He proposed a walk, just the two of them. No pretense, no code. They wandered through a city garden, and Alex admitted, "I still hear it sometimes, but I write it down now. Like you taught us. Gives it less power." Sarah started painting again. Her new canvases wild and raw. Glitched landscapes of digital haze and fractured faces. Streaks of color slicing through memoryscapes like a blade. "I don't want to forget what happened," she said the first time Maya visited her new studio. "If I make art from it, maybe it won't hurt as much. Maybe it'll even help someone else who got caught." Jake, irrepressible even in anxiety, began organizing online support for other Astral Realm survivors. He spun a Discord server out of nothing, welcoming lost players, sharing journaling techniques, acting as cheerleader in the face of nightmares. "Our stories don't end when the game does," he posted one long, sleepless night. "Memory is a fight, not a fact. Stick with us, even if stuff gets weird." The four of them met weekly in a downtown CAF, always together, always choosing seats with their backs to the wall. Their rituals became simpler. Recite a silly fact, swap stories, toast to their artifacts, each person carrying their own token, sometimes visible, sometimes secret, never fully explained to strangers. Those meetings were healing. Laughter returned, sometimes hesitant, sometimes breaking wide open from sheer relief. A reminder of what survived when the Eater was defeated. Yet Maya felt the darkness still hovering just out of sight, like unfinished code. Some dreams were gentle, painted with sunlight and new beginnings. Others spun into chaos, corridors reappearing, her reflection splitting. Old memories whispering she was still trapped. Maya learned slowly to distinguish her inner voice from the old echo, to counter every spike of anxiety with a litany of truth. "I am Maya Carter. I fought for these memories. This is my world now." But life after horror is never straight, never simply relief. Sometimes, in the quiet of her apartment, Maya would lose her place mid-sentence. Her mind snagged on the sense that someone or something was about to slip through the cracks. She caught herself opening her journal every morning, checking familiar details were still there, forcing herself to write new pages filled with the present, the neighbor's dog barking, Alex's latest joke, the taste of cheap instant ramen. 1 week, with her confidence building, she logged into Astral Realms again, not to play, but to see if it was truly over. She spun her avatar through bright, familiar plazas. Gone was the labyrinth, the static, the echoing fear. Instead, she found traces of others who'd survived. Some left coded messages inside quests, others built shrines of digital light, memorials to the ones they'd almost lost, to friendships reclaimed. In global chat, rumors floated. Something changed. Updates coming. Feels lighter now, Maya understood. Every scar was a warning, and every warning was a lesson. The memory eater hadn't vanished, it had adapted, maybe retreated. But its story was now woven into the code and into the community. Survivors leaned on one another, sharing rituals, tools, techniques to hold onto themselves and their truth. She wandered beneath artificial stars one more time, closing old doors in person, reciting the names that kept her grounded. When a draft of wind swept past and a familiar chill tickled her skin, she didn't panic. Instead, she whispered, "You're only a small part of me. You'll never win while I remember who I am." And in the silence that answered, Maya felt her courage settle, as steady as heartbeat. Outside the game, life moved forward. Sarah sold 2 paintings and staged her first solo show, Fragments and Wholeness. Alex published a blog about trauma, resilience, and virtual worlds, his words rippling through a network of players and researchers. Jake's Discord community ballooned to hundreds of members, some staying just long enough to share their pain, others forging lifelong bonds in the process. Maya's mother asked, one quiet evening, how she had changed so much, how she had learned to stand taller, to ask for help, to hold so tightly to joy. Maya answered truthfully, I almost lost myself, but my friends, our memories are armor. We saved each other. Not all wounds healed at once. Not all lights or brave. There would be moments years hence, when the memory eater's chill would scrape against her dreams, when a sudden loneliness or a forgotten name would trigger a shudder of uncertainty. But the rituals watched over her, and her friends real, present, unbreakable were a shield against even the deepest echoes. On the anniversary of their escape, the four met again in that same odd CAF. They toasted their survival, pressed artifacts together on the table, coin, badge, chess piece, drawing. They recited their names, just once, aloud for all time's sake. Maya squeezed Jake's hand and felt Sarah's shoulder against hers. In that electric moment, she realized that for all the pain they'd endured, all the terror that had stalked them, the fight for memory had never been theirs alone. They were a network, a family of survivors, a reminder that even when shadows rise, light can break through. In her journal that night, Maya wrote, I will always remember, not because forgetting is impossible, but because remembering is the bravest act I have. The game changed its patch notes, added warnings, created new community tools for those who felt lost in the dark. Stories swirled new and old players passing along Maya's rituals, Alex's checklists, Jake's jokes, Sarah's hymns. The legend of the Memory Eater became less of a monster tale, and more a shared history, a way to tell each other, you are not alone. You are never alone. And when Maya heard the last echo, sometimes barely a tickle of code at the edge of sleep, sometimes a shiver in the wind after dusk, she no longer felt fear. She felt gratitude for every moment lost and found, for every person who helped her remember herself, for the strength to keep loving in a world of uncertain memory. She closed her journal, pressed the coin to her heart, and whispered, This is my story now, and I will never let it go. The end. Take a minute to like and subscribe. Thanks. See you again soon.